all that I know. She's over me. She's over me. She comes with her hypnotic dance. She holds me here with only a glance. She's over me. She's over me. She's in my head wherever I go. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, welcome to the Paranormal Portal. I'm your host, Brent Thomas. I'm thrilled to be here with you. Hope you're having a great night, and thanks so much for coming here and spending your night with us. And by us, I mean that I got my good friend and co-host, Mr. Don Longbeard, in here with me.
Oh my God, is that guy here again?
Yeah, I know. Just needed something to fill that space.
Can't he just go back to work?
I got two cameras, and I just didn't have any reason to use the other one here. So, welcome, Don. How you been, brother?
Oh, good. It's one of those weeks where you just don't want to work. But all good. Yeah, just enjoying the sun, actually. It's been kind of nice here lately.
Yeah, it has been pretty beautiful, other than the clouds and stuff. But I'm sure the sun's out there somewhere. But, ladies and gentlemen, we got an incredible show lined up for you again. This is... in his first visit, I think he completely blew me away. And I had an absolute pleasure listening to him, hearing his tales. The passion, the dedication to his craft is just incredible. But we, of course, are talking about our good friend, Mr. Dean Harrison, Yowie Researcher from Australia, is joining us once again. Welcome back, brother, and thank you so much for coming back.
Hey, thanks for having me back on. I was so excited about coming back on. I had the haircut.
Looks good.
I saw that we had a lot of positive feedback. From the last show, which I was pleased about, and I'm sure you, Brett, you're pleased about as well. In the comments, I note that along with many other positive things, somebody mentioned that Dean Harrison can talk underwater with a mouthful of concrete.
Which has got to be a talent, I'm sure.
But he did prefix that with, but he knows what he's talking about. Also in the comments, I note that there was a couple of women there that said something along the lines of, isn't it a shame what age does to people? And then another woman responded and said, yeah, he used to be pretty good looking. Yeah, but I guess it catches up with all of us.
I guess I didn't see those, but...
Thank you very much.
Was that about the time you put up that picture when you were bodybuilding and?
Yeah. That was epic. Epic. But anyway, so last time you were on, we went through, I mean, just it had to have been a small, infinitesimally small fraction of your experiences. And many times throughout the course of the night, you're like, oh, I'd like to tell you about this. We didn't have enough time. Oh, I'd like to tell you about that. We didn't have enough time. Obviously, we've got a lot more ground to cover. And I don't even think these 2 hours are going to do much to cover the scope and breadth of what you've been doing. But I'm really excited to have another opportunity to hear more of what you got to share, because I think we all agree, and not only Don and myself, but all the listeners really, really enjoyed your first visit. So it's really cool to have you back and to dive back into it.
Right. At the end of the last show,
Mm-hmm.
in fact, to begin with, anyone who hasn't seen part 1, don't watch now. Go back and watch part 1 first, because the first part of this probably won't make much sense to you. So go back and watch part 1, then come back and watch part 2. For the first half an hour of part 1, I think I bored everyone to tears with archaeology and paleontology. Then we got on to the more fun stuff.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the last show, I was talking about how sometimes you get thrown a curveball when you're on operations or expeditions. And I was talking about a very spooky mountain place called Mount Kembla. And myself and this guy Craig, we were parked out there in the middle of the night, and we were waiting for, hopefully, an encounter with the Yowie. It's miles away from everybody, from anyone or anywhere. And you probably remember this, and people who watched last episode would have remembered this. And we were there playing Lone Camper. And Lone Camper, again, is what you do to increase your odds. If you have one person there, you've got pretty good odds. When you go to 2, 3 people, your odds of having an encounter diminish. So here I was in the car. It's pitch black outside, and Craig's a musician. He's playing the guitar. He had a barbecue set up, and he had his video camera set up, which I didn't mention.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
before.
okay.
And so he's busy strumming away, and I'm falling asleep in the car with the seat back. And suddenly, here's this shriek, this scream, this woman's scream, which ended up being Craig, remember?
Right.
And so I put the windows down a little bit and said, Craig, are you okay? And there's no response. Windows down further. Craig, are you okay? No response. And so I ended up getting out of the car, and I walked over to Craig, and he's as white as a sheet. And he's just sitting still as a statue, just looking forward up into the forest.
Right.
And so I'm looking up at the forest, and I'm looking back at him, the forest, and at him. So, Craig, did you see something? He's like, yeah. He's not elaborating on anything. I said, up there? And he's like, yeah. And I said, well, I'll go up and have a look. And he's like, no, don't. And he was really, literally, genuinely scared.
Yeah.
And so I grabbed my flashlight, and I went up there, as you remember. And I panned up and down and around, and what he's looking at was a fork of a tree. So there's the fork, and the fork would have been probably about 7 feet high, and the bush all around. And I'm looking back down at him, and I said, look, there's nothing here. So he went back down and said, what did you see? And he said, well, I saw this face just appear in the fork of the tree. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't just a face. He said it was the most demonic face he's ever seen. And it was sort of shaped like this, and it came down, so like to a thinner jaw. Uh-huh. And his eyes were as dark as charcoal. And he said it was just the face of pure evil. He said it was like looking into the eyes of the devil itself. Right. And he said the thing that really disturbed him the most, besides the whole thing, is the fact that when it looked at him, he said it was looking into my soul. He said it wasn't looking into my eyes. He said I could feel it. It was looking into my soul. Wow. And that's what really affected him. And so he had a really hard time getting over that night.
Right.
And then we spoke about later on how we had that possible UFO occurrence. Everything was just lit up around us, and there's something above the car, and then that went. So, again, that's all in part 1. But the reason for me bringing this back up is because I forgot all about the punchline. And so we spoke about this all the way home, which was up on a Monday. On about the Tuesday or Wednesday, he was sitting in his lounge room with his wife and his child, and they're playing back the video. They're getting up to the stage where here he is strumming along, he's having a sing, and he looks up and he screams. At this stage, just as they're getting up to this point, he turns around and says, he grabs the remote control, and he says, I'll just pause it here and I'll go to the loo. And as he paused it, guess what comes up on the big screen?
Oh my God. Really?
Right in front of everybody.
Wow.
Oh my God.
His wife phoned me and told me, she said it was demonic. And here it is in front of everybody. And he was like, so he's left it on there, and he's gone to the loo, he's come back, and he's rattled. And so he grabs the remote control, and he puts it back in rewind. He says, let's watch this again. So they're all sitting there, watching, on with the remote control. And it goes past it. Pause, rewind, goes again, nothing there. Goes past it. So, okay, goes back to the initial spot. Now it goes frame by frame, frame. Goes past it. They never found it on there again.
Wow.
Oh my God. That's really spooky.
Yeah.
That's wild. So it was really something supernatural in a demonic way, probably. Then I mean, that's just that just can't be what we would consider a Yowie, would you think?
Well, no. Oh, heck no. No, I mean, basically he had vindication because he had witnesses with him.
Right.
And they saw it themselves. It's just that just one of these really odd circumstances of why?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't it come back up again? And what are the chances? What are the chances of him pausing it right on that half still, perhaps?
Jeez, that is so creepy. So it was just lost to time. Then it was lost to their memory at that point. It just didn't exist.
So, and this is just one of those things that that we can't explain.
Yeah.
Now, also, retouching back on the last episode,
Mm-hmm.
we were talking about Ormo, and Ormo, if anyone hasn't seen part one, turn it off now, go back. Well, Ormo was the kicker for me. That was the game changer. Ormo, that experience that I had, that encounter, that's what made me who I am now, basically. And I almost lost my life that night. And if I had jogged down this track at 11 o'clock at night, I wouldn't be sitting here right now with you, talking to you, because it would have got me. No question about it.
Wow.
So this creature here, it was first heard making an awful racket behind me, and it obviously had anger issues. Mm-hmm. It was breaking the place up, and it chased me. And if it wasn't for the fact that it didn't come out in the open, it would have got me. And it was all really, really close. Now, 6 months later, I went back to that location, and I walked apprehensively, daytime only, of course. I walked through this bushland corridor where it happened, and in this bush it's creeks, it's swamp, it's very thick and uneven sort of terrain. And as I'm coming down into it, out comes this boy, this young guy. He would have been probably about 12, maybe 14, 12, 14, somewhere around there, early teens. And back in my early days, being a super sleuth, I had a pair of cheap binoculars. I had my $12 Kodak camera with a 6-yard flash range, and then a couple of other peripherals. And he sees me coming, and he walks straight up to me, very direct, and he says to me, in a very Australian accent. He says to me, "Hey, mister, what are you doing?" And I thought, how bizarre, how forward. I said, "Oh," and then I'm sort of going through my files up here going, what can I tell him? Bird watching. That's a good one, bird watching. And he looks at me, you know what he says? "No, you're not."
Oh.
Wow, where did that come from? He goes, "You're looking for that thing, aren't you?"
Oh, my God.
And suddenly my radar up like this. "What thing are you referring to?" "The big thing in here. The big hairy thing." I said, "Well, what? Can you..." And then he says to me, he goes, "You're from the government, aren't you? You're from the government, and you're trying to track this thing down." I thought, wow, this guy... But here I am thinking, I'm the only person who knows about it. And here is this kid come out and he says this to me. And this is like, again, this is 6 months later, because I'd moved to Sydney, and I spent all this time with Fatfoot, and I was on holidays back up in Queensland. So, given the first opportunity, I rushed out there, of course.
Sure.
And so here's this kid, and he comes up to me and he says this. So I'm like blown away. "Well, tell me what you know." He's still believing I'm from the government, of course. The old bird watching story didn't cut it. And so basically what he said to me was, him and his friends, they were out there, just prior to this, I'd already been out there.
Uh-huh.
And I found this hut that someone had built, and it was just strewn everywhere, right through the bush. And it was sort of like, it was half of it was left, the half, and I'm going, what a mess. And there was this stuff everywhere, like there was a bag there, and there's batteries, and the batteries appeared to be bitten in half.
Oh,
it didn't look like, I mean, these are batteries, D-sized batteries. You're going, yeah, what? And it looked like teeth marks.
Oh, my God.
And they're in half. And I couldn't make heads or tails. I should have told this before the whole boy thing. And what else was there? Oh, there was an egg, and the top of the egg looked like it had a finger through it, like it's a chicken's egg.
Uh-huh.
And the contents were all just sucked out. I'm going, okay, well, that's odd too, and et cetera, et cetera. So then, okay, now I get to the boy thing. So he's come up and he said all this to me. And he said, well, myself and my friends, we were building a hut out there in the bush. And this thing comes along, and he said, it was huge. He said, it was smashing through the place. He said it was breaking, his words were, it was breaking the place up as it's coming towards them. And so they get a visual on it as it's coming at them, and they've just dropped everything, and they've ran, and it's chased them.
Oh.
And it's chased them, and he said, it's gaining on them like this, and they just got out in the opening in time.
Oh, my God.
And then it stops, it's turned around, and it's gone back to the hut. They said they stood out there in the empty paddock, listened to their hut being destroyed. They said it was just being thrown everywhere. Wow. So for me to hear that, so they said that they wouldn't go back there that day.
Mm-hmm.
They left all their stuff there. And they said that their parents, who live on the other side of the field over there, and it's fenced, and it's a township called Norfolk, and it was a new housing area that built on his area, obviously.
Okay.
And that all the neighbours, all along that fence line, they're all talking about the noises that came from this bush, the screaming and the roars and all that. So even the adults were concerned about what was in there. So wow, how about that? To come back 6 months later and hear this story.
Yeah.
Then, roughly about that same time, on TV, we had this show back then in '97. It was a missing persons type show. Have you seen this person missing? Da 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 da. As it turns out, this guy, he goes missing. Where? Where I was chased. When? When I was almost taken.
Oh, my God.
They never found him again.
Ooh.
So in this situation, what had happened was, it was on dusk. He had finished work. He had been dropped off by work colleagues to be picked up by friends. He had what we call them esky here. I think you call them like a cold box, like a cool box. You keep your lunch in it, that sort of stuff. And so with that and a thermos, and he sat on the side of the dirt road, which was just not far away from where I was. And between the time he was dropped off and they came to pick him up, he was gone.
Wow.
All that was left was his gear, and he was never found again. And again, this is the same time that this happened to me, so it just makes you think. At that time, I had to do a show. I was on the Today Show. You got the Today Show over there.
Oh, sure.
It's the same thing.
Uh-huh.
So I was on the Today Show, and I was in the newspapers, local newspapers here on the Gold Coast. And that raised a lot of interest. And then I had all these reports of other people saying, yeah, well, we've had our encounters with him as well. Now the picture's getting bigger. Then a Channel 10 news report comes on late at night, and they talk about, this woman talked about, while they're doing the upgrade to the highway, about this big old man that was trundling down the side of the road very early in the morning.
Mm.
And she said this smell was like sulfuric. It was horrible, and it was almost like rotting eggs come sulfuric. And she looks down the road, and she sees this old homeless person just trundling down the side of the highway. And remember, this is a highway that's been there for decades and decades, but now they're doing the upgrade. There's roadworks everywhere. Mm. And she said this thing just looked confused. Well, this person, I should say, looked confused. So as she's getting close to it, the smell's getting worse. As she gets up next to it, she looks up through the windscreen at it. It looks down at her, and she's like, a gasp! It's no man! I mean, she said the face on it was just horrible.
Oh my
and
God.
At that point, it just runs and nearly gets collected by about 3 or 4 cars straight across the highway into the cane field and disappears.
Oh my God.
So that was, yeah. So the other people there had encounters too. So he was spending a lot of time in this lower ground. And as I said earlier in part 1, that this part of the forest, it goes up into the hills. Mm-hmm. Now, in 2003, I'm not talking too much, am I?
No, no, it's great, fascinating.
In 2003, I get this phone call. And these are back in the days when I had my phone number public on the internet, uh-huh. Which is, I don't do that anymore. And I received this call, and he is an American stroke Australian, semi-American accent, and he had a very shaky voice and he was very, very nervous. He said, I'm not quite sure if this is the right number for me to call. I've had a sighting, and I don't know what to do with it. I don't know who to talk to. And so no, you have the right number, and tell me the story. Oh, first of all, tell me where it happened. He mm-hmm. says, Ormo. I've gone,
uh-oh.
Right. Yeah. Let me get my pen then.
Uh-huh.
So it turns out he was just up the hill from where I was and all the other people. He was just up the hill in the mountain. And he was a tree lopper, an arborist. He was felling trees off a property, so like clearing a property basically. And this property was on a downhill grade, and he had to grasp onto things to get down to the trees. That's how steep it was, and his feet would slip, etc. And he was up there in a tree, and he was felling. I think he'd already felled about 3 trees. It was about 45 minutes later. And he got down and he felled his last tree, and this thing came down with a big crash.
Uh-huh.
And he said, up stood this creature.
Oh,
and he said this thing, in fact, this guy got the best view of it out of anybody, because it was just on dusk, or just before dusk, and he said he's looking at it right in the face. He got the best view. And he said it was just like an ugly person covered in hair, except 8 feet tall. And he said in an American accent. He says, some sort of weird ass gorilla man. So you can imagine that. He said it had big eyes and a spade nose, and its fur was muddy and clumpy, and he said it looked pissed off. And it was. And then, it stood up, and you could see it from the waist up, and it's sort of looking from behind the tree. Then it crouched back down again, and then wandered into the thicket, and he said suddenly it just started breaking up the place, smashing everything. He said rocks were going, small trees were being felled. It was making all sorts of ruckus. I mean, it had anger issues. So it's doing that, and he's just going, I am getting out of here. At that time, he's taken the chain off his chainsaw and he's trying to sharpen it. So he's just grabbing everything as quickly as he can.
Right.
And he takes off, and suddenly this thing takes off after him.
Oh.
He said, I just don't know how fast these things are, but I'm trying to grapple onto things, trying to get with my stuff, and I'm trying to grapple myself back up this hill. He said this thing was just straight and circling around him. He said, at one stage I thought there might have been two of them. That's how fast he was. And then he's come around the other way, and he said he was going to cut me off between me and my car. And he knew that this thing was right behind him at certain stages because he could hear it because he's just crashing through things. And then he gets out into the opening just in time. Another story of being just in time to the opening,
right.
And this thing doesn't come out in the opening. So you've got my story of this thing with anger issues crashing everything down in its path. You've got the boys' anger issues, it's smashing everything down in its path. You've got Jason the arborist saying this thing had anger issues, smashing everything down, having a tanty, and also trying to cut you off to the car. But here comes the interesting part, right?
We've got about 30 seconds.
Oh, shit. So you see what happens?
So
then we'll get back to this at the other end.
Yeah, absolutely. As you can see, ladies and gentlemen, there's a reason we love having this guy come on.
It just went right by.
I know, it just flies. But the stories are incredible. This is all real first world experience, or first-hand experience, rather, and first world, I guess. But you can see why we love having him back. But don't go away, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to go to our first break of the night. We'll be right back on the other side. So grab a drink, use the loo, and we will return shortly. Don't go away. Ladies and gentlemen, the second half hour is now upon us here on the Paranormal Portal. Don and myself are sitting here just enraptured by our tonight's guest. World-renowned Yowie Researcher, Mr. Dean Harrison, is joining us. And we have been on an epic journey so far. Just before break, we had to stop that story, but please continue. That was brilliant.
I'm still disturbed by some of the comments from those women saying how old I look. That sort of scraps the second half of the show that I had planned, so I'll keep my shirt on now, so let's that out the
window. No Chippendales tonight, sorry, ladies. Yep.
Okay, so basically we just told the story about Jason the arborist. And he was just one of many people who had an encounter with this same one. Now, I say it's the same one, I know it's the same one because it has all the same characteristics. It makes sense. So, here he is. He's gone back down to my area on the street that I was in. And he goes down this little cul-de-sac at the edge of the bush. And there's this woman standing out the front doing the gardening. And he pulls up the car and gets out. And it's a bit impertinent, but he goes up to her and asks if she has seen anything strange. And then she just thought he was a peanut to begin with. But it turns out that she has a small son, or a young son. I'm not quite sure the age of this boy. I presume he would have been pre-10, something like that. And he'd made a friend over the fence in the bush that he called Willie.
Oh, really?
Wow.
I'm not happy about that name, by the way. It could have been Brutus.
Yeah.
Oh, it was Willie. It's not that manly, is it? So basically, he'd made this friend with this imaginary friend that she puts it, that he called Willie. Now, Willie told him that he's going to be leaving this area now, and he's going up the mountain to spend time back with his family.
Oh.
Guess where Jason was?
Up the mountain.
Just up the mountain. And guess where we never had any more encounters? Back down where Willie was.
Oh. That's interesting. So literally this child seems to have been communicating with it then.
Seems so. And they seem to have a relationship with children a lot better than adults. They seem to relate to them a lot better. And I've got some pretty good stories from witnesses that relay encounters from when they were young children. I've got an absolute doozy here too that I'll hope to have time to get to, and it is absolutely fascinating. I spent a lot of time talking to this woman, and she's talking about the times from she was 6 years old, and the relationship that she had with the young one of them. And she said the parents were never far away, but she had a relationship with the young one on a banana plantation. But that's a story for possibly a little bit later.
Okay.
So anyway, here's this Willie, and just can't help to make me think that was it or would it have been? Is there a chance? Is there a possibility? And what are the chances of all the encounters now were happening up on the hill, and none of them were happening back down there where this kid lived.
Right.
Yet this kid said that he was moving from there and going up the mountain. Is there any weight to it? I don't know. I have no idea. So, all right. So now I'm at the stage where I'm thinking this thing's dangerous. And it is. I mean, it is. It is. Sincerely, I say, this thing was just a bad... He was just a bad guy.
Yeah.
And he had a chip on his shoulder. And I wouldn't be surprised if he caused more deaths than that other guy that I presume was probably taken by him. So, I mean, I was almost taken by him. I would have been. I have no question about that. So now I'm getting concerned about this thing, and I'm thinking, well, this thing could possibly cause more damage. Perhaps I need to do something about it. At that stage, I had a relationship with certain levels of the military.
Okay.
They come to me, and we had a bit of an agreement, so to speak, in terms of information sharing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this particular guy that I was dealing with was very, very high up. Still active, but very high up. He'd been there for a long time. He fought in Afghanistan, Iraq, and all the usual places, Somalia. And he had an offsider there as well. So I got in contact with him, and I explained the situation. I said, it just doesn't sit right with me. I said, I think we should just go and have a word to it, so to speak. And so they said, okay, we'll take care of this. Now I put them in contact with Jason, and they had a conversation with him. Then they set a date, and they went out, and they had all sorts of equipment with them. They had flashbangs and flares, but rattle traps and all this military stuff. And these guys are snipers as well. Mm. So what they did, they set up on this slope, very close to where Jason was really taken. And they set up the lone camper situation. Remember I said about lone camper situation? This is what we did. That's what they did as well. Oh. So they had a lower area where this one guy, he set up a barbecue, and he was a lone camper. And up here in the lantana, they put a clearing behind the lantana, and he was the sniper. The first night, they had nothing to report. On the second night, it was probably about 2200, at 10 o'clock. Mm-hmm. And suddenly they hear this tree come down in the valley. And these guys had throat mics, they had night vision,
sure,
all that jazz, all the usual. And the guy at the top had a long arm sniping sniper weapon, and it was scoped in for 200 metres. They both had sidearms, .45s.
Okay.
And so this thing is on the approach, and it's heading towards the lone camper. As it starts to get close, it looks down. It gets right to one of the tripwires. Now remember, this is pitch darkness under a tree canopy.
Sure.
And this is a black tripwire. It gets to the tripwire, and it looks down, and then it walks around the tree to the other side.
Oh, man.
Now he said, that's impossible. Now you could not do that with the human eye. He said, I firmly believe that it saw that tripwire. You and me would not have seen that. That's the purpose of them. You do not see them. You walk through them.
Right.
And so that happened, and now it's getting really, really close. And as it's going straight through, and then the guy down the front, he's getting worried. He's going, sort of thing. No. And he said, and so he starts to retreat back to the top position. And as that's happening, this thing comes across, and the guy's just let that run round, and it's hit the tree right beside its left shoulder. And this thing's like, rah! And then it just goes through the trips, and everything's lit up, and the night vision goes down. So now he's blind.
Oh no.
And so this thing, he said, it was thrashing about and screaming, and I know what this sound is like. It's not a nice sound to hear. It is awful. And he said, this is what it was doing, smashing everything. And so he's let out a couple more, and then I think it's come back at some stage, and it was back on again, and he let some more off, and then they dumped along and they've gone to the short arms, they've gone to their side weapons, and they've chased this thing. And the chase, he said, it was on for a couple of hours. They're playing cat and mouse, and this thing just kept coming back round at them all the time. And he said one of the words that he used to me was relentless. That's how it was. It was relentless. It just kept coming back at them, and with the vocalizations and all that. And they ended up emptying both magazines from their sidearms at it, and then they decided they'd get out of there because they were concerned about the noise they were making and having a police presence, because they shouldn't have had the stuff there in the first place legally.
Sure.
And so they've had to hightail it back up there, and what they call that, they said they've sanitised the area. They picked up all the shells, they've raked everything, they've bagged everything, and they got out of there. He didn't believe that he'd hit it. Okay. He said that he'd made enough impact. He believed he made enough impact to scare it away and for it not to come back. Mm. Yeah. Now, 1 week later, a friend of mine, Nigel, who's pretty heavily involved in Yowie scene, him and his wife, and remember, all this was top secret. It was all top secret. Mm-hmm. I wasn't going to tell anybody any of this, right? Sure. This was all under the table. And so Mum was the word, basically, and Nigel phones me the following Saturday. He said, "Do you know anything that's happened recently in Ormo?" No, nothing rings a bell. Right. He said, "Well, we've been out to this location, and Nigel's a hunter. He's a sniper, basically. And he said, we found something very interesting. You would be interested in this." Now, we were out there, and he said, "Now, from what I can see, it looks like there's a bottom position where someone was camping, right? But up here, there's a sniping position." And we go, "Oh, okay." And he said, "So there's this and there's that." He said, "Now, down below, in the trees, there's all these bullet holes." "Oh, right." He said, "But here's the kicker, though. Everything's been raked. Someone has sanitised the area. Everything's been raked everywhere." And I went, "Ooh."
Wow.
But for me, that was the confirmation that I needed. Because one person saying that they did all this, but the confirmation was there 7 days later. Mm-hmm. And this person had no idea about the event that had taken place 7 days prior.
Wow. It's just amazing to me how aware these things are of their surroundings. I mean, it seems pretty clear that they're able to see just fine in no light. And I don't understand that. But, I mean, to avoid the tripwires, to avoid everything, and still move in on that position, that's crazy.
You know, somebody in the chat asked, if maybe they can see somehow maybe the magnetic fields around some of these instruments they may have been using. Because we hear that, over here in the States, it's possible that they see the infrared spectrum. They see obviously heat signatures. It makes perfect sense to me. So, would they be able to see in other spectrums, such as like magnetic fields or whatnot?
I think it is basically down to what I said in part one. They have extremely acute, sensitive eyes. And again, I said that their eyes are tucked all the way back into their skull. They have these prominent eye ridges protecting their eyes from sunlight, and the reason that their eyes are so sunken back into the skull and shrouded is because of the sensitivity from sunlight. Mm-hmm. Now they are, of course, cathmeral, which means that they will operate day and night. They're not nocturnal, they're not diurnal, they're cathmeral. Oh. It's like they're omnivores, they're not herbivores, they're not carnivores, they're somewhere in between. They'll eat anything. They're opportunists, basically. Mm-hmm. So the same with their eyes. I mean, there's a 24-hour gamut, but the thing is that their eyes will be a lot more sensitive than ours at night time. Mm-hmm. So, is there a 60% gain on what we can see? Is that enough? Now, I've seen these things in top flight. I've seen the business end of these things, and I've seen them operate in darkness that we would trip over walking. And these guys are going like 40 miles an hour, just crashing, leaping over things. And, you know, I think it's more so probably again, unless they've got something incredible happening, then we'll say, okay, is something incredible happening? Well, how do you explain the eye shines self-illuminating and changing colours, and you know, going from yellow to red, and in my case, white?
Right.
That makes no sense either. I've had it explained to me many different ways, but it doesn't matter how much you want to explain it, it's still weird.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's incredible. But those claims come in, so and from a diverse audience of people. So I mean, it's not just a one-off event in any case. I mean, people all over the world are reporting these weird eye, configurations and things. I remember hearing a report of somebody that was out with their son, an older son. They were very strategically looking for these things, and the son laid down in the brush, and one walked right up near him and was looking past him, but he said he watched his eyes go from like red to green, and had these other spectrums involved there. And I was like, whoa, what does that mean? That's amazing.
I'm not going to go into too much detail about that many other things, because after the first hour, I want to get into something more serious.
Sure.
But it is funny because I mentioned the word Willie before, someone naming their Yowie Willie, and there's a lot of people who do name their Yowies, and of course I name their Bigfoot as well.
Sure.
Another one, I touched on this last episode about infrared, and this place where we'd taken a film crew, the infrared had blown up, and it also made tracks. Anyway, this one, his name's Oscar, and there's a place called Taree that we used to go to, and Oscar was 9 feet tall, and he was grey, and this the witness and the property owner, his name was Jeff Nelson, and we spent a lot of time with Jeff, God love him, rest in peace, and he lived in a shed with his family, his wife Vicky and his son Andrew, who was probably about 9 years old at the time, and their shed that they lived in was right up in the bush, right up on a hillside, and the family had lived there for generations, or decades I should say. And the grandparents were down on the lower ground in an actual house. And Jeff used to fix motorbikes, and it was all very, very messy, very, very messy sort of property. And so he had these encounters with Oscar, the 9-foot grey. A lot of them, and he wasn't the only one. I mean, everybody, the whole family had seen him. And he used to, going outside at night time to go to the loo, he used to call it having a wet.
Okay.
No, I was going outside, I was having a wet, And so on this particular night, he was outside having a wet, and he'd walked out through his door, and he's out there having a wet, and he doesn't remember this gum tree being there before. This big gum tree just... Hang on, that gum tree wasn't there before. And here is big Oscar standing there right next to him, just looking down at him.
Oh my God.
He said, I didn't only just have a wet.
Oh no.
Story, he actually did. He honestly believed himself.
Oh my God.
Down his trouser pants.
Wow.
And he said, Oscar's looking at me, and there's another tree next to Oscar, and said, Oscar's looking at me, he goes, up against the tree, like, I'm just a part of the tree. And then he's standing there, and he goes, and then he turns around and he walks away. So he goes into the tree like, I'm not here, and he texts Jeff, he goes, no, you can still see me. Well, I guess that's not working. He just turns around and walks off into the...
Oh my God.
Into the bush. So Oscar was there for a bit, and then there was a black one, and him and Andrew saw him. He said, just looking through the bush, and he said, it was all mangy, like mangy hair, etc., around the face. So we brought that film crew up that time, and I'd set the main guy up on the track on top of the hill, and said this is the track he comes down on, and he had, again, one of these big TV cameras, and on top of it was mounted an IR pack, passive infrared.
Okay.
And so he's up there, and he's waiting, and one of the other, we had another crew over to one side. We're all on comms, of course, and the guy up with the camera, he radios down. He said, "What does it mean if you're being growled at?" And I said, it's probably not a good sound to hear right now. And he heard this thing walk along, and suddenly growls at him, and suddenly his IR patch just blows out. And then this thing comes down over that side, and the two crew members we've got over there, they radio in saying they saw these red eyes coming down through the bush, like so. And so we didn't have much of a night with him that night, but the next day we're out there, and I got a radio feed from Ashley, and it's on one of our YouTubes, and Ashley was there, and he gets this rock thrown at his feet, and he thought maybe he kicked it himself. Then another rock comes, lands at his feet, and another rock comes, and he goes, "Ooh," and then he radios me and said, "I think you better get back up here." And so, and then he said, then I think after the third rock came, out comes a kangaroo or a wallaby from the thicket, and then out comes it, and it walks off up through the forest. So what had happened was Ashley was walking down towards the kangaroo. This thing had already scoped the kangaroo, was onto the kangaroo, and he's going, "Stay away!" He's throwing rocks at Ashley to say, get away," because he's watching this kangaroo, we believe. And yeah, wow. So that was that. But the infrared, I think that's what brought us into the infrared thing. It was at his property, and realizing and doing all the tests with infrared that these things could actually see it. And back in the early days, we didn't have game cameras like we do now. Sure. We could make our own infrared, but they're all sort of hardwired. Game cameras weren't really, they weren't readily available. Sure. I think in early 2000s, Game Tracker came out with this one American company, and they put all their electronics they dipped in resin, so the Chinese couldn't copy it. Yeah, good luck. And they're $3,500. We managed to buy one of the first ones. Wow. But in infrared, it's definitely something that we believe they can see.
What about, you don't suppose UV as well, or is there any indication about them being able to see UV? Or has that not been tested? Okay.
No, we haven't done that.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure either. I just know that, for paranormal research and ghosts and stuff, they utilize full spectrum cameras, and they've turned up some interesting things for ghost hunting, but I don't know if it would translate over to the Yowie Research. Another thing that people seem to be starting to utilize is these starlight cameras that just magnify available light, and they're really impressive from the shots that I've seen. And I have to wonder if those wouldn't be really well utilized in this kind of research. But
yeah, it's something that I'm familiar with. I know now that we've been using game cameras.
Yes.
We've pretty much ruined areas by using them. Like I said before, like in part one, I mean, people say, "Oh, I'm scared," and what can we do? Years ago, when we had all these people contacting us and calls for help, we used to gear up and we used to go to all these properties all up and down the eastern seaboard. Now, my advice is quite simple: just set up some game cameras around your house, and you'll be fine.
Yeah, that's happened over here too. I've heard many stories of people hanging up those security lights that use infrared and stuff, and sure enough, they won't come near them, or they seem to actually know exactly where the border of that light is, so they won't break that edge. Once right. When they see it, they avoid it completely, and that's just fascinating. But
I think they can see on that spectrum.
Yeah, Yeah, I think so too. Now, I've heard people telling me, and I don't know if this is true or not. I've had dogs, but I've never tested it. But they said that they took an IR TV remote and were able to. Their dog was able to chase it around where the dot would appear on the floor, and I didn't know that was the case. That dogs could see that too, but that's what this person tells me.
If you use a video camera and you put that on night vision, and then get your TV remote and press the button, you'll be able to bring it up.
Yes.
You'll be able to bring it.
Yeah, and I know I can do. I got an old Nintendo Wii here, and I have a home security camera. And when I turn it, the Wii is just like two little spotlights, but otherwise it's completely invisible to me. So I find that just fascinating. But it's pretty impressive. But, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be going to our hour break now, so we're going to be back. We got a full hour left to go. I'm sure we're going to get into a lot more amazing stuff here tonight. Following the show on tfrlive.com, stick around for Paisley Wild coming up next after us, The Spaces Between. So that'll be coming up after the Paranormal Portal tonight. So there's lots of great programming available for you. So everybody use the hour. Get another libation, and we'll meet you back here in just a couple minutes for more of the Paranormal Portal with Mr. Dean Harrison. Don't go away.
Play their games. Everybody loves to place their bets. They don't understand the price I paid. They don't care to comprehend. Trace their lines upon my body, dripping scars across my heart. Raging anger boils inside me as their lies keep falling apart. With my silence, I am not a stupid boy. No more breaking me with kindness, just you dance upon my joy. Leading me with empty promise, you're just another fucking mess. Taking off the slice of my sanity, just make sure that you're well fed.
Caroline's not like those she's with. They're attracted to the one thing about her that is different from themselves. Her life force is very strong. It gives off its own illumination. It is a light that implies life and memory of love and home and earthly pleasures. Something they desperately desire, but can't have anymore. Right now, she's the closest thing to that.
Poltergeists are usually associated with an individual. Hauntings seem to be connected with an area. A house, usually.
Poltergeist disturbances are fairly short duration, perhaps a couple of months. Hauntings can go on for years.
Yes, they can, ladies and gentlemen. They can go on for years. But welcome back. Hour number 2 is upon us here on the Paranormal Portal, and hope you guys are enjoying the show as much as I am. I know it's an absolute thrill ride, but it's just, this is a topic that I'm extraordinarily passionate about. I find very, very interesting, and I love the idea of learning new things about it. And so Don and I are once again pleased to welcome our special guest tonight, Mr. Dean Harrison, who is joining us all the way from Australia. But welcome back, sir. Welcome to the second hour of the show.
We made it.
We did.
What I'm going to do, I'm going to cut out pretty much everything and get straight onto the big stuff.
Okay.
Now,
We're not at the big stuff?
Yeah.
yeah, big stuff now. I've had all this other stuff that's up here that we can talk about, but I think what everyone's probably wants to talk about is when I got hit by the Yowie. I'll just get to, because it's going to take a bit, and I'm just looking at the time, because we never have enough time.
Sure.
I'll just do some background on this area.
Okay.
Now, we were given the opportunity to go to this area via advice from a local historian. And this person said that they had had certain encounters there, and the place is called Oakview State Forest, and it's a place called Kilkeven. And it's very dear to my heart because we've had so many amazing experiences there. So we went out there, and I think that the first time we were there, we had quite a few people. There was a camper van with an elderly couple, an older couple. It was George and Glennis Mackay. We had multiple vehicles. We had all sorts of personnel, and we had been given instructions to go to the top of this mountain where there was this old hut. And it hadn't been driven on in years, probably a decade or so. So it was all really overgrown.
Uh-huh.
And I didn't have a four-wheel drive, but my car didn't know that.
Oh my God!
Straight over everything, and go through grass this high, and you had no idea if there's a log on the ground or not. And we're just ploughing through everything, and we got to the top. And we still had, we didn't have radio comms with the bottom. Now, the camper van couldn't get up to the top because it was a camper van. And you need a four-wheel drive, or my car, or me as the driver, to get to the top. And so they had to park down the bottom. And one of our guys decided he'd stay down there with them. So during that night, we had no action at all at the top of the hill. At about 7 o'clock in the morning, the guy who's staying down the bottom of the hill, I think he'd done a 6-mile track all the way up to tell us, because we didn't have comms, that they'd been attacked that night. So we geared up and we went back down to the bottom of the hill and slid down various ways through mud and stuff. And we get down there, and what had happened was, at about 1 o'clock in the morning, they heard some noises in the bush, and then suddenly crunch on the side of the camper, and the whole camper just started swaying like this, side to side. Now, we could have had 6 or 7 of our guys pushing this camper, and we wouldn't have made it move. Wow. This thing was swaying. In fact, it swayed so much that George, 6 foot, whatever is of George, he fell out of bed, and he gets up and goes, "What's going on out here?" Da, 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 da. Opens the door, and he said, "This thing runs off through the bush," and what was left out there in the mud beside the camper was with these footprints. So we learnt that this was where they were, and it was a great introduction to this area. So that was terrific. So now we had spent a lot of nights there, and you could hear and actually even see at some stages the bushes all going like this, and then bang, tap, 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 and then you'd hear up over there, tap, tap, tap. It was really active. Wow. There's a lot going on there, so it really captivated our interest. So after many, many nights there, we found we found a logger's cabin. And it was great. It was unlocked. It was in the middle of the pine forest. It had several bedrooms, and outside was a nice fireplace, etc. It hadn't been used, again, like decades. And we thought we'd use that as a base camp.
Sure.
And so we were out this one night, and we'd been out for hours and hours. It was about 3 o'clock in the morning, and we decided we'd go back to the huts. Through the pine forest. And so everyone's sort of walking ahead, and I was with Phil, crazy Phil, and they're also disappearing, and Phil's with me. We're walking along, and I'm busy talking my head off, as sometimes I do. And yeah, Phil's just been extraordinarily quiet this particular night, and we're just sort of walking side by side, and Phil's probably about 10 yards to my right, just within the pine forest. And we've been walking for probably about half an hour to get back to the huts. As we're getting close to the huts, Phil starts to sort of go off that way. And as I'm coming up to the stairs of the huts, I must be going for a wet. So I go up and open the door, and everyone's in there, including Phil.
Wasn't he just going for a wet?
Phil was in there.
Yeah, wasn't he just out having a wet? Wasn't it?
Oh my God.
So there's this. I mean, we had a lot of these great interactions with them, and then there's this one night, and this is getting onto the anomaly, right? And this is one thing I really can't explain. Myself and a guy by the name of Marcus, we'd gone up on this hill away from the loggers' huts, and we're right up there in the pine plantation. And it was about 2 o'clock in the morning, and we had this idiot. Everyone has an idiot in the group, right? So we had this idiot that was just really on thin ice as far as I was concerned, and he'd do stupid practical jokes, which is not on in a team environment. You do not do that. So anyway, he's down. We were aware that he was down there somewhere in the creek. And about 2 o'clock in the morning, myself and Marcus being up here, we hear coming down from the bottom of the mountain, crunch, 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 right directly at us, and it's from a long way too. Crunch, crunch, and it was just so melodramatic, it had to be a joke. And it sounded like an elephant on 2 legs. And crunch, it sounded like someone really banging it on. That's how loud it was. And this is really, really dry undergrowth too. So crunch, 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 coming up. It's getting closer and closer, and I'm just looking at Marcus going, "Do you reckon it's him?" And I think we may have got on the radio at one stage, because we just did light references. So where are you, for example? And they'd go, and you go, oh, okay, this is my light reference. And this thing's getting closer, and it's getting closer, and it's so overpronounced, these steps. Crunch, crunch, getting closer, getting closer, getting closer. Now it's within probably about 30 yards. It's pitch dark. And crunch, 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 crunch. Now it's probably 15 yards, 10 yards, 5 yards, right there in front of us. I put on the flashlights, the very last step. Not another step, and not a thing there.
Oh my God.
Nothing there. I cannot, to this day, cannot work it out. I spent the good time, half an hour, trying to work this out in my head. Where did this, something that was this big, where did it go? It had to go somewhere. It's this pine forest. There was no holes, and you know, they're pine trees. You can't hide up pine trees. But we looked anyway. We looked high, we looked low, we looked this way, we looked that way. It was gone. It basically disappeared the moment I hit the button of the flashlight. That was the very last step right there in front of us, 5 yards away. Boom, gone.
Oh, that's weird.
Makes no sense.
Wow.
So this is why I say sometimes, you know, you like to have an easy answer.
Yeah.
But sometimes there's not an easy answer. And this still can't work out.
Yeah, that's trippy. That's really trippy.
So we hear stories all the time of, like, you know, Bigfoot, camouflage, you know, phasing, predator, you know, fur, camouflage, things like that. I gotta ask, what's your idea on that, if I may?
Like I said, I have no answers.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Fair enough. Yeah, I mean,
I don't think
the easy answer is they're flesh and blood.
right.
And we're just simply mistaken because, you know, we make mistakes. Maybe there's just an obvious reason around something. I don't know. But I'll give you another example of Kilkeven. We were out there on Operation Rotation. This is 2001. And this thing, again, we're still getting into the anomalies that I don't really feel comfortable about. But I'll have to tell it anyway because maybe someone else can relate. So we're sitting there at our base camp, and suddenly, about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, there's this crashing coming through the bush. And remember, where we are is miles from anywhere. Miles from anywhere. And from the bush, and the direction of the bush, there's no roads or anything. This thing came through like a steamroller felling trees. That's how dramatic this noise was coming down through. And I was on a mission. I was on a real mission. And I was fearless. Nothing was going to stop me. I was going to get footage this weekend. Hook or crook, I was going to get it. And here this thing comes. It's like an elephant on 2 legs, just crashing through everything. It was huge, absolutely huge. I can't underestimate and emphasize how big this thing was. It had to be enormous.
Wow.
Everything crashing down. And everyone's just looking at each other and it's like... And first thing I did, I grabbed my camcorder. I'm going down there. You guys stay here. I'm doing this. This is mine. And I ran down the track. I ran across the creek. I ran up the creek, right to where it was. And the moment I stepped from the creek bed onto the embankment, where it was last heard, bam! I just like walking through a wall of cold ice.
Wow.
Okay, so from here I am in the creek bed. I'm fearless. I'm doing this. I'm motivated. I'm scared of nothing. Nothing's going to stop me. The moment I stepped up, I started to feel nauseous. I felt physically like ill. I got weak. I had goosebumps. I began to tremble. I went down to my knees. I dropped. I I dropped to my knees. My legs went from under me, just like a boxer. My knees just went.
Wow.
And at the same time, I still had my faculties, and I'm trying to reason with myself, like I did back at Ormo before I was chased.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to reason with myself. Why are you feeling this? What? Come on, what? Give me something. You're not stupid. Why are you going through this? From there to there.
Right.
And then I've actually dropped down like that, just straight down, and I was basically face first into the dirt.
Wow.
And I'm lying there, and I just can't move. And I just had this feel, whatever it was, I just had this feeling that it was just there. It was just there.
Mm-hmm.
I had my eyes open, and I'm looking, but I can't move my body. And I'm looking, and also everything was silent. It went from birds and cicadas, bugs, everything just went gone.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, that stillness is
No
creepy.
noise. No noise. And I'm lying there in this silence, and my mind is going 100 miles an hour trying to psychoanalyze myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so aware that this isn't just me.
Right.
I know it's not me because I had everything going on up here, but the body shut down. And I just had this acute awareness that there was something there, and it wasn't making a noise. And it made no sense for something to be so loud, so big, so heavy, and have such a major presence, not to break one twig as it left.
Wow.
And then suddenly, all the cicadas and all the birds and all the little bugs all came back, and that feeling I had passed, and I got up to my knees, and I looked around, I got up to my feet, shook it off, I was fine. And there was nothing there.
Can I ask you, were you able to observe the physical evidence of all of that commotion that you were seeing? Like, did you see felled trees or anything?
I didn't actually walk in there.
Oh.
I was too shaken up.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I don't blame you at all. But wow.
That was just one of those other anomalies of Kilkeven.
Uh-huh.
I'm just going to budget my time here. I remember there's a fun time. I had a friend of mine who's a top Gold Coast lawyer, and he used to come out with us. And we went out to Kilkeven one afternoon, and as dusk was coming, I set up a plan where it would be on the side of the creek bed, because I've always said that they'll use creek beds as corridors, and they'll use particularly granite-based creek beds not to leave their footprints.
Oh.
And so I found this big rock. I mean, it was a big rock. It was probably about 5 feet high and 4 feet wide. It was a perfect place to hide behind. And I was hiding behind that, and Mike was sitting out on a rock in the middle of the dried-up creek bed. And suddenly, from around the bend of the creek, you'd hear all this teetering going on. All the rocks were teetering, like footprints, like footsteps, teetering. And there's something walking bipedally around the bend. And all the birds started going crazy and all dive bombing. And something's going on here. I said, Mike, come up here. Come behind here. Something's coming. And again, it's just getting right on that dusk mark. And he looks up to me and he goes, no. I said, no, come up here. And he's looking and goes, no. And I'm getting really angry with you now because what did I say? Come up here now. No, I'm not coming up there. Because he's too scared. He wanted some space. He wanted to be in the open. He's a bit worried about what this was that was coming around the corner.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's getting darker and darker and darker, and I'm getting more and more peed off because he's going to give our position away. And Bucko, you've ruined everything. You've absolutely ruined everything. So I've got up my position, and I've walked down and I sat with him. And we both had our backs to where I was.
Mm-hmm.
Now this thing, where it was coming round, it's cut up into the bush, and now it's walking the creek line through the forest. And where does it go? Right where I was sitting. And it squats down right where I was. Thank God I'd walk down to it. Thank God he said, no, I'm not going over there. So now here's this thing sitting right behind us. And like we'd hear it, we'd hear every footstep as it makes its way there. And then we hear this. And then we hear. And this went on for minutes and minutes. And Mike turns to me and goes, "Do you have a Ventolin spray?" It sounded like it had asthma. Oh. It was just sitting there, and it was so loud. It was not just the exhales, but the inhales. It was so melodramatic. This thing's got a mess. Oh, please.
That's hilarious.
Tension seeker. It must have had a massive diaphragm for it to be able to do that. It was huge. So that was a part of our experiences out there at Kilkeven. Oh, I'll just mention this one more. There's one more that I'd just like to bring up. We had the New York Times want to come out and do a story on this. Uh-huh. So we thought, okay, Kilkeven's a better place than any others. So myself and Steve, we took out this crew. And there was I think a husband and wife and some other guy, and we'd set up tents in a creek bed. And they're absolutely mortified that we were stringing out bones, right, meaty bones around the campsite, because remember, you guys come from bears and things, you're not allowed to do that. And so we had at night time, well, we'd cooked a barbecue. At night time, we left two of them back there, and I said to Steve, I said, I want you to go 400 yards down that track there and just prop yourself down there in the creek. And he had a shotgun with him, which is unusual for us because we don't normally carry guns. And so he went down there, and to the right-hand side of the creek, he went and sat there. And we went up over to the other area, and it wasn't long before I get a radio feed from Steve saying, I'm coming back. And I said, no, you're not, hold position. No, I'm coming back. No, you're not, hold position. No, seriously, I am coming back. And I turned to this American guy and I said, obviously something's wrong because he wouldn't normally do that. And so I said, okay, we'll come down and meet you. So as we meet each other, Steve's as white as a ghost. And I'm angry because you're not supposed to stay there. And I said, what happened? And he said, well, you know how you told me to walk down there and sit? Well, I did that. I did that for you. Said, but unfortunately, I sat right in between two of them.
Oh, wow.
He said he had no idea. He said he's sitting there like in the dark. He's got a shotgun, and he's thinking, yeah, this is really good, though. I won't know I'm here. And then he hears this side, and then he hears, this side. He just goes, He said, I didn't know what to do. He said he had a gun, but it's like, and he just got up. He said he had one sitting, basically, he was sitting right in between two of them. He said, how I did that, I've got no idea. He said, it was pitch dark. He said, there's two of them sitting there. They must be sitting there watching me going, what's he doing? And then he's like, and then they must be looking at each other going, is he with you?
Who brought the bald guy? Oh, that's funny. Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And obviously he just got up and walked away. I mean, it was just like that, huh?
Yeah, he did. But we left the other two back down in the camp, and we were doing our own thing, having a listen. And they said they were being surrounded by creatures unknown, and we were just ignoring it. And it got to the stage where it said, listen, we're packing up because this is just too much. You guys got to get back here right now. We are seriously in danger.
Wow, that's intense. That's incredibly intense. But I imagine that if you're going to go out there, you got to be ready for those kind of things, and so much more. I my hat goes off to you because the intrinsic danger that's involved in every time you go out there. Yes. You don't know if you're going to run into one of those that wants to smash people or if they're just kind of putting up with people.
I did actually find that out.
Okay. Yeah. Oh man, I don't know. I don't think. Go ahead.
No, so we'll get to that story just on the other side of the break.
Oh, very good, very good. Yeah, I mean, that's the part that I think takes a lot of courage, because obviously physically we're not even in the same ballpark. If they wanted to turn us into pudding, they would.
They turn us inside out with a thought.
Yeah, or just tear us in half, and it would be this like as easy as a piece of paper for us. And
the one that chased me at Norfolk, at Ormo, I knew at the time there was nothing I could have possibly held, anything handheld, that would have saved me, that I could have defeated myself with.
Yeah.
It was just too strong, too powerful. Nothing I could have done. I could have had a samurai sword, it wouldn't help me.
right, I mean, we're just so outclassed.
Yeah.
There's no question.
Snap my neck like a toothpick, just like that.
Yeah, I've heard stories like that too. They're kind of historical stories, but people confronting these things and getting their heads popped off like little daisies. And that seems to be a way that they do it. But ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go to our last break. We will be right back in just a couple minutes. More of Mr. Dean Harrison when we get back. Don't go away, everybody. More of the Paranormal Portal in just a couple minutes. Ladies and gentlemen, the last half hour is upon us. That's how quickly it goes here in the portal, especially when you have an amazing guest. And our guest tonight is Mr. Dean Harrison from Australia. World-renowned Yowie Researcher is here sharing his insights and knowledge. And welcome back, sir, with the last half hour of the show. Wow.
Goes so fast, doesn't it?
It really does. It kind of makes me feel bad because I know I'm going to have to talk you into another visit. Because there's so much ground to cover, and I know we're not even putting a dent in this, but it's absolutely fascinating. Your experiences are incredible. Your insights are phenomenal. I just love learning about this. I think it's fascinating, and it's really cool to hear about the Yowie because, of course, we over in the States know there's a Yowie over there. I mean, those of us that are in the Bigfoot community know about an idea of the Yowie, but to hear you personify it and talk about the behaviors and stuff, to me, I find really fascinating because there's so many parallels and overlaps between the two, even though they're continents apart. I find that really, really fascinating.
Where you find one, there'll be another not too far away. Mm-hmm. And they do have family groups. They aren't quite as nomadic as some people believe.
Okay.
Home, sure, they'll wander, but home will always be home. They'll always return. They can go for weeks and weeks or months and months. They'll always come back to home. And as I said, where you find one, there'll be another not too far away. And this is one of the reasons why you won't find their dead. You won't find one died of natural causes. Mm-hmm. Now, if you're on a walking track, for example, like a forest walking track, and I'm going to get off track and not even get to this if we keep going. I'll just quickly wrap this bit up.
Sure.
If you're on a walking track in the middle of the forest, you won't find, I'll use Australian terms here, a koala or a kangaroo dead of natural causes lying there on the track before you. It just doesn't work like that. Mm. So when people say, well, why can't I find a body? Or why are there dead bodies found? Well, number one, you just won't naturally find them just displayed for you conveniently. But number two, the main thing is that they have family units. Now, remember, don't ever think of them as an animal because you're getting way off track, you're following the wrong path, and you keep believing that, you're not going to get anywhere in research. Don't look at them as an animal. Look at them more as a human. And then you'll start to know that. Now, also, perhaps even put that in your mind too. A convict, someone who doesn't want to be found.
Right.
And the reaches that they'll go to not to be found, I guess.
Sure.
To cover their tracks. So back on to the topic of where you'll find one, there's another not too far away. Well, if one does die, the other one that's not too far away will also have others that aren't too far away, but they will find it and they will take the body because they're not going to leave the body to be picked apart by predators, as we wouldn't, and they won't leave their bodies to be discovered by humans.
Sure.
So they will take care of their own dead. And even thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago, we were burying our dead. And it's hundreds of thousands of years ago, we were burying our dead. So what makes these things any different? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. So if one dies, it'll probably be found by another one and it'll be taken away. Mm-hmm. Now, that aside, we're going straight back into Kilkeven and we're going to the night that I was hit.
Okay.
So, this was January 2nd, 2009. It wasn't an expedition per se. It was just a night out, basically. I was in Melbourne at the time. I was on holidays, and of course, the place close to my heart was Kilkeven. And I thought it'd be nice if I grabbed a few people and we went out there. So that afternoon we arrived. We'd set up camp at a place that we call the Arena. Now the Arena is a cascade. So just put this up. You can see it. It's a rocky cascade, and it's a lot steeper than it looks. That is actually very steep. Now down the bottom there you can see there's a rock pool, And to get up there, particularly if it's a little bit wet, you've got algae, so you can slip really easily. So we're camped down at the bottom of that, and we were being loud and being raucous. We'd been out on walks and all that sort of jazz, and it was time to settle down. 10 o'clock came and we're all sitting around the campfire, and we're just talking as you do as if you were just camping in general. Come about 2 o'clock, between say about midnight and 2 o'clock in the morning, a few of the people were starting to dare each other to go for a walk by themselves up this particular track past the arena. And everyone's going, oh, not me, not me, because it's a pretty spooky area. And so, of course, I put up my hand and go, I'll go. And so what I always did, a part of my method in research that I always performed was I would venture away from base camp, and I'd sit there and I'd listen to see if we have any visitors. Because quite often, more often than not, when you're in a camping situation, these things will come around your camp and they'll be watching you. But you will have no idea that they're watching you, right? So you have eyes all around you. It's like what we said before. It's like you'll never see them because they blend and they're dark and we're dumb and we are blind. We can't see them. Right. They can see us. We can't see them. So they can just stand there out there in the open. So you've probably got something out there behind a tree watching you because you're of great interest to them. You imagine how boring it would be out there? And then to have a human out there, or a few humans, and you've got a campfire and you've got some noise, it'd be great interest. Let's go and watch what's going on out here. So you stand there and you watch. So about between 12 and 2 o'clock, I went for a walk down into that cascade, down the bottom, and I started to make my way up. Now, as I'm getting about 1/4 of the way, suddenly this sulfuric odor, this strong, pungent, sulfuric smell that was so dense, I could feel it going up my nostrils. That's how powerful it was. It was right there. So I radioed back down to base, which wasn't far behind me, and I said, situation. Then Steve got on the radio down there, and he said, well, careful, because you know what that often means. And, I was tired and wasn't worried about it. And also, I was believing at that stage that this sulfuric smell was some sort of rotting, dirty water, stagnant thing that perhaps was coming through the rifts in the rocks, the cracks in the rocks, because it was all quite wet. And I'm thinking, well, that sort of makes sense. So I was being very careful as I was going to the top of this cascade because, again, it was all quite slippery. But this smell, it was there. It was right there. And it was overwhelmingly strong. But I ignored it. And I kept going, and I get to the top of the cascade, and on me at the time, I had a mag light, I had a bottle of water, and my radio. That's all I had.
Wow.
And I stood there, and I looked up at the bush. Down below me was base camp. To the side was a hill. To my right was a big hill, a really big one. And this is all pine.
Okay.
And to my left, down to my 45, was a big rock pool full of water. Just above me here was a track. So the track went along to my right. So it was like an ascent track, then ascent up the top of the mountain. And so I sat there and I started to tune into the bush, just listening and really concentrating on everything around me, really focusing. And suddenly up here, crunch. And I've stood up and I've looked up and crunch, crunch, crunch. This thing starts marching. And when I say marching, I mean marching. Marching with no inhibitions. Like, it doesn't care. It doesn't care. It is marching. It is doing what it's doing. It's not going to hide. It's not going to hide from you. It has a purpose. This thing is walking with a purpose, marching with a purpose. And I've got on the radio, and I still have the mag light and bottled water to my side. And I said, head count, guys. Are you guys all down in base camp? And we're all here. I said, well, I've got company. And as soon as I said, I've got company, this thing was pretty much level with me. It turns to its left and then proceeds to sprint straight down the mountain. Sprinting straight down the mountain. Sprinting in pitch darkness. Sprinting in unhospitable terrain. Sprinting over things that we'll be tripping over. Sprinting around foliage that we would have to navigate. It was sprinting, and it was getting faster, faster, and faster. Now, me being me, I wrote the book on how a Yowie should behave. My problem was, he didn't read the book.
He wasn't paying attention.
According to page 8, paragraph 2, he should stop by that tree. He didn't. He went by that tree, and he's getting faster again. And now I'm like, the reality's kicking in. Now I'll stop the story at this point, because this is really pertinent. Prior to this point, and all the experiences I've had over all these years, and all the time I've spent alone in my own head, I've come up with all these different scenarios and how I'd get myself out. If this happened, I'd do that. If that happened, I'd do this. I'm always one step ahead of you because I've got it all worked out. That night was all out the window. All that experience was gone. Everything I had staged in my head, in every different possibility, every realm that could have happened to me, was all gone. Nothing. I had nothing other than to put my hand up and go, stop.
Oh my God.
Didn't know English either. So I've got my hand up and I'm going, stop, because I knew at this stage. And he's getting down to this track just above me. He's getting right to this track. And and I knew at this speed, it would take a lot of effort for him to stop. And I'm going, stop. I'm yelling now. I'm actually yelling. So I'm starting to freak out. Yelling, stop. And you hear him leap off that top bank and he lands on the track. Boof, boof. And then as soon as it was like a leap from there and then the leap down to my short ascent. As soon as he leapt off that track, there was no stopping him. There was nothing I could do. There was absolutely, it was all, if he wanted to stop, he couldn't have stopped. And I knew at that stage, brace for impact.
Yeah.
And it's like all your worst nightmares have come at once. And he came down and he hit me fair square in the chest. I went flying. I mean, it was a big, solid punch too. And I don't even feel, not even to this day, because it's so dark, I'm not even sure if it was a punch. I've got more of a feeling it was more of a forearm elbow, and it hit me right across here. And it was such an impact, it took me off my feet, and I went flying backwards, and I landed in that big rocky pool of water. And I'm sort of on the verge of that, and now he's standing over the top of me, and I am beside myself.
Yeah.
Absolutely beside myself. And I was scared.
Yeah.
I'll admit it. I was scared, and here I am on my back. This thing standing over the top of me, and I'm waiting for him just to pick me up like a rag doll, and just start throwing me about the tree and just snapping me in half. So what I'm trying to do now is I've got myself and I've asked myself on my back, and I'm rocking from side to side, and I'm kicking in every single direction I can. So I'm rocking from side to side, side to side. I just keep trying to cover every single angle that I can keep, and trying to keep myself as small as I can. And I'm also throwing punches, futile punches. At the same time, I'm kicking my legs out at every single direction, my hands, my legs. All I want is just to keep this thing off me. And I'm yelling, I'm looking down at base camp, and suddenly you see the flashlights all coming up the cascade. Everyone's running towards me. And so he's stepped off and around me, and behind me is a tree. Now I'll just put this picture up here. If you have a look at this top one here, that top one there, that's me sitting there, and that's you can see the water behind me. Now that tree that you see, he's walked around that.
Oh.
So he's standing on the other side of that, just as the guys get to me. Now I'm covered in water and dirt and blah blah blah, and the guys pick me up, and they sort of brush me off, and I'm like hysterical.
Yeah.
And that's it. He's gone that way. Because I could hear him walking, and I heard him walk around that tree there. So we went after him. Well, two people went first, and then after I got brushed off and cleaned up, I went as well. And in the darkness, here's these two white eyes, self-illuminating. Now, this is where I can say, not reflection, self-generating, self-illuminating. Absolutely impossible for it to happen. There was thick cloud cover in a valley with a treed canopy. There was no light at all. You could hardly see your hand in front of your face. Yet these eyes were self-illuminating.
Wow.
Don't get it wrong. They were not reflecting. They were self-illuminating. No question about it. And so here are these eyes, and they're looking at us, and they're blinking like this.
Wow.
And then when we start to go towards it, he turns his head, and then suddenly there's darkness because he's not looking at us. So we take about 4 or 5 paces. He takes 4 or 5 paces. We stop. He stops, and then he turns around, and the eyes are back. Blink, blink.
Oh, jeez. Wow.
So we played this game for a little bit that night, and then he went away. In the early hours of the morning, a couple of guys said, no, he was still here. You'd hear him walking around the tents. Then, we're doing good time, by the way.
Yeah.
Then, that morning, still shaken up, still stirred, I set off for a walk, which is really stupid. I took nothing with me. I always take water with me normally. I had nothing. I didn't even have my phone on me. I don't know what I was thinking. I think I was still probably a bit dazed and shook up.
Yeah.
And I just had to get away. And so I'd gone for a walk, and I'd been going for quite some time. And I was coming back to base camp. I was really dehydrated, like really dehydrated. I needed water, and I mean serious water. I was about to drop dead, I think. And there was only one way back down to base camp. One track. There was no other way.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to go this way. And as I come up over this hill, and I look down, guess what's sitting on the side of the track?
No. Oh, no.
And I'm not feeling too good at the time, and I needed water. And so down the bottom of this hill, there was long grass on the left-hand side. It would have been about 3 foot of long grass, and it was all very thick. Beyond the grass is a creek, and there's pine forest, obviously both sides of the track. And I had to get past this thing to get back to base. There's no other choice.
Right. So
I did baby steps all the way down towards it, and I'm looking at it, and for some reason I just got this feeling, and it's one of those things I can't explain. I just got this feeling that it was a female. And as I'm getting a bit closer, I'll just call her she. She lays down in the grass like so. Well, and the grass is obviously covering it. And I'm getting closer, and I'm getting closer, and I'm just, okay, I don't know whether that's the same one that hit me last night. This is what's going through my head.
Right.
But I need to get past this. I need to get past it. And I can't see her because she's down in the grass and she's really well concealed. And just as I get level with her, bang, 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 right next to me, right here, only yards away from me. I've got one on both sides.
Oh.
This was the guy, this one here, this was the guy who hit me, not her. And this thing is right there, and the bang was just right in my ear, and right next to me was just this really, it was like a really big thick tree, but still covered with really thick foliage. It was odd because it was the only space in the entire forest that looked like that, and whatever it was standing on the other side of this big tree. But it was right there. It was only like a few yards from me, and I've got this one here, and I've got this one here, but this one's made the aggressive move. Whack, 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 and he's right there. It's like, whoa! Last thing I expected. And I was like, and so I've bent over and I've picked up a rock. Yeah, that's going to be great. So I've got a rock in my hand, and I'm just frozen. And I didn't want to look. I didn't want to look this way. I didn't want to look that way. And I'm just standing there going, And so, okay, baby steps, baby steps, baby steps. And I did baby steps, don't look back. Baby steps, baby steps, baby steps. And I did this for ages until I felt comfortable. And then I went really fast. And then so I went back to base. And so God. that was the experience. And I suffered a lot of PTSD over that. It took me a good 8 months to get a full night's sleep. It really took its time. There's so many questions that went through my head because I kept reliving the whole thing over and over, every day, every night. I just kept reliving it, and I think one of the biggest questions in my mind was why. Yeah. Why did he hit me?
Right.
And what did I do to make him do that? And he came from afar. It wasn't like he was standing right there. It wasn't like when Steve sat in between the two of them. He came from afar. He came with a purpose to hit me. He came to hit me for a reason, right? And what was that reason? And that's the thing that caused a lot of the turmoil. Now, it wasn't until recently, and I'm talking probably the last, I mean, it's like 10 years later, that I've realised that when I was walking up that cascade, that granite cascade, and that sulphuric smell that I was experiencing, it seemed so close.
Oh, you were too close.
It seemed way too close. Because remember, I said it was just going up my nostrils. It was right there, and it was so pungent. It was so powerful. It was like it was right there. She was right there.
Oh, man.
He's come down. I was too close. He's whacked me. It's like the next day. I walk down there. There's she, and there's him right there. Whack, whack, whack. The alpha male. That's what happened.
Yeah.
That's my belief now.
Wow. Yeah, you want to ever piss a guy off, start moving in on his girl. Wow, that is intense. That's amazing.
That's my closure on it, because it now makes sense to me.
Right.
Wow.
I never knew why. Why did he do it? But now it's just so obvious.
Oh, wow. That is really, really intense. And I'm just so thrilled that you came back again and to share these. I hope you'll come back even again. But, the ball's in your court. Of course, you got an open invitation here in the portal. But could you take a minute or two and let people know how to stay in touch with you, brother?
Yep, email dean@yowiehunters.com, but yowiehunters.com is the website. It's Australian Yowie Research. Big thanks to my friend Sarah Bignell, Dion Fawkes, my moderator, Paul Crockett, Tony Healy. And there's other questions I want to ask you, Brent, too.
Sure.
But we're not going to have time.
No, unfortunately, we're just down to literally seconds at this point, brother. But I'm always available if you ever want to reach out. I love talking with you, of course. But yeah, I mean, thank you so much again. It's an amazing journey you take us on, and I'm really thankful for that. So I appreciate it. Don, did you have anything in closing?
No, I just want to say thank you again for coming and visiting with us. I missed the first one, and I kind of regret it, but thank you. And, I'm glad I was able to be here with you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our journey on the Paranormal Portal tonight. Dean, hang on the line. I'll talk to you on the other end after we shut down everything. But we love you all. Be good, be kind, be nice. Take care of each other. Help each other out. Find the magic in every day, and remember to laugh as much as you can. Good night, everybody.